Okay, so we've got this fairly standard detail showing the threshold from the interior to the exterior balcony crossing through the bottom of the balcony door. And so you can see here I've begun to set up my section for the proposed apartment, and I've started to draw it, but I haven't really located exactly where that's going to cut through my floor plan. So I'm going to begin by doing that. And it doesn't need to be a full section symbol at this stage. I'm just going to draw a line, and I might just change to an annotation layer, or since I don't have a section layer, I'll just use the grid layer for now, and I'll make a layer for it later. It's just this one line I'm going to draw with ortho on and make sure it goes straight through, and so I can see then where I'm cutting my my wall. Or so well, it's a wall at the moment. It's going to have a door inserted into it, and it's not really worth drawing the drawing plan until we have an idea how that's going to work in section anyway, if we're going to draw it with any detail in plan. And so now I can project lines from the floor plan, just going from the intersection of that that wall line with the section line, and projecting it straight up to my section. Now, most of this will go, since I now realise that I'm cutting my section through this this slab area. Even though we're focusing on the detail, we can also keep updating that section as we go as well. Now, I've got another copy of the section over here, so I don't need to worry about losing these things if I delete them. So I can just go ahead and do that. I'm just going to delete most of these lines. That will all go, actually, because I'm not going to keep the wall there at all. I'm going to keep the column, so I could draw a line. Well, I actually have to delete all of that hatching anyway, so I'm going to just delete that, and I'll rehatch those objects. It's easier than trying to edit the hatch. The windows are going to be replaced, so I'm going to, or removed, so I'm going to delete those too. And the wall, the flashing, that will all go. So this is the fun part, just getting rid of things you don't need. We may need to do a demolition section later on, but it's not required for your assignment, so you don't have to worry about that at this stage. And then it's probably not a bad idea to put in the lines projecting from the column, just so it's clear where the edge of that column is in section. So I'm just going to project a line down. Now we may do some sort of finishing there as well, where the slab sets down, depending on the balustrade detail, but worry about that later. And so for now I'm just going to draw another line on the other side of that column, projecting down again to show what the column looks like in elevation. This line that I've projected up from the plan can go onto the walls layer for now. Yeah, I'll just use that general walls layer. Later on we can put it onto one of the other layers if we know what the construction is, but for now that's fine. And then going back into the plan, I could copy that line to locate the other side of the wall. And then for now, I'll just assume that it finishes at the height of the bulkhead, so it can be trimmed back to that. And I'm going to delete some of this text that I was just using as an example before. Get that out of the way. And so I've located the wall there in section. And so that will give us an indication as well when we're doing the detailing at the top, what needs to happen there. We'll have to put a soffit in going across to the wall and filling in the bulkhead there, so we get a consistent ceiling height over the balcony. And then you can see here, again, just reminding you, we're going to have to work out some sort of balustrade detail for the edge here, but that's not the detail we're focusing on. The detail we'll start with is the threshold that you can see here. And so we may need to make some allowance for the depth of the door. It may be deeper than the wall thickness that's been allowed for there. So I'm just going to measure that. And so you can see it's just 100 mil. That probably won't be enough. So I'm going to say it's more likely at least 120, the distance across here. And it could be even more, but we'll say 120 maybe for now will be enough. So I'll need to offset that line, obviously 120, and so that I can keep as much space in the outdoor area as possible. And I know I've been using that set out, so I'm going to start from the line on the left there and just offset to the right, so I've got a bit more wall thickness there. And I can go back and adjust the plan afterwards. So this line can just be deleted. You can see then this wall line, may as well move that across now, so we know that the plan needs to be adjusted as well. And then coming back to here, so you can see that this is the line of the slab, and we do have this shim that is recessed. Now I'm going to also try to get the stormwater drain recessed or chased into the slab in a similar way, but that's something that we'll need to investigate. So that will go to one side, and then for now we can just put that shim in there. So assuming it's about 20 mil again below the slab. You don't want to be chasing into the slab any more than that, really. And then again maybe 10 mil on this side, and we don't know the dimension on the left till later, so you can then just join these lines together. And then we've got the line there that is the carpet, and that's in this case going to be replaced. Well, I'm going to go with this using wood flooring, so I'll just say it's a floating floor. And there's something not shown here that we should show, which is the underlay. So I'm going to add that as well. So I'm going to offset 10 mil. And you'll have to research this depending on the flooring system you use. It's really easy to look this up. All the flooring manufacturers will give you the sizes that they need. So there I'm going to assume 10 mil though for the underlay, and then 20 mil for the flooring itself. And you can see it's already getting a bit confusing, so it's really important as you're making lots of line work like this that you tidy it up as you go. So I'm going to go back to trim. So here is the line of my shim, and then I can just trim these other lines back to that. The slab, of course, needs to be left going through. And I might go and repeat the trim, and while I'm at it, also trim the lines for the wall back to the slab for now. And then I can also, just checking, oh yeah, so then I can also maybe fillet these lines together. So that's showing really clearly now that I've got the floor coming across there with the underlay underneath, and that lines up with the shim there, which we'll maybe separate later, but for now that's pretty good. And then we've got the well, what is it? It's the frame for the sill, bottom plate, I suppose you could call it. And it's got an aluminium cladding. So you, again, just need to assume some of these dimensions, and that to me looks like it's about 40 mil initially. From the slab that it rests on. I've brought my, or maybe 50 actually. Yeah, that's better. And then another 20 mil. Coming back to the left, maybe 15. And so I'll just continue like that. So offset, fillet and trim is going to give you most of the things you need. So I'm not worrying too much about I haven't been worrying too much about the layers, but now I am. So going into my layers list there, you can see that I don't really have a... also I've got my door framing layer, I can use that, but I don't really have a layer for the door hatch, so I'll at least need to make that, and also maybe the door metal frame. So here, so we've got door frame. I'm going to make that door frame timber now that I need to differentiate those. So then we'll need a door timber hatch. And a door frame metal as a minimum. We'll need more than that later, but that's enough to get you started. And then the colours, again, are really up to you. It's all going to print black and white, but the line weight is essential. Let's go for bluish, yep, metal. Nope. Okay, so now I can start putting those lines onto the correct layers. And then we've got the wall. Well, that's really... yeah, I suppose it is the wall. So you have the line of the wall. I'm going to say this here could be brought across. So they've got the line there set back with the still projecting. Yeah, I think it's probably neater to just project the wall from there, and that's really going to be the other side of the frame as well, rather than having it set back. So I'm just going to continue it from there. And you can make decisions like that, that's fine. So again, drawing from the... well, we don't have a layer for the drawing projection, so another layer I have to make. So you can see why you sometimes end up with files that have, 100 or so layers. That's not unusual. So, door frame timber projection, which needs to be basically a lighter line weight version of that previous layer. And then I can just draw a line from here, projecting up. Don't really know the height yet, so I'll just take that up a certain distance. And then can continue putting in the rest of the sill. So that's a timber step that sits on top here. Maybe just to make it easier, I'll bring this line up for now and draw again on the timber frame layer. So I'll just finish this side and I'll let you copy the rest from the drawing. So again, guess the dimensions as you're drawing. It should be good practice. So here I'm going to say that's about 60 mil, looks like to me. And then coming across to the left, just finishing it maybe 100. and then just straight down for now, and that will need to be adjusted afterwards. And then maybe just to finish off the base plate or the bottom plate, can offset, again just guessing, looks like it's about 60 mil. I know it's too much, so half of that, 30 mil, yep, to the right, and then just stretching that down. Okay, so you probably should make layers for the flooring based on the materials as well. And so actually just one command I'll show you to finish off there. You'll often want to break lines to put them on different layers. And so here I'd really want to break that line into 3 pieces. So there's a really useful but fairly new command in AutoCAD, which is to break at point. Previously you only had the option to break and put a gap between the 2 points you'd chosen. But now you've got this option to break a line at a single point. So the way you do it is, so you have to go to the modify panel, and then it's down the bottom there. You can see break at point. And then you need to select the line first, and then choose the point where you want it to break. And now you can see I can just select that top part there. I don't have a timber floor layer yet, but I'll just for now use the one I've been using for the door. So then the underlay would be on yet another layer. So again, using that break at point, choose the line and then choose where I want it to break. So again here I would have another layer for the underlay, and then a different layer. Well, I can use the framing, the metal framing layer that I've made for the door. That would be okay. Okay, so you can just continue along like that, drawing in all of those lines. And at any point you can start to set up the detail on the page. And so unlike this detail on the left, you probably should put in dimensions as well as the notes. But apart from that, now all I need to do is make sure that's in a viewport, and because we do want to show lines that are too close together there at the scale that I've already got it set to, it's set to 1 to 10. There, it might be better to use 1 to 5. Then I can see those lines more clearly. And so just to test that out, I can try labelling that, just to finish off, using the text there, single line or multi-line, doesn't really matter here because it's only going to be one line I'm doing. Yeah, so I'll do multi-line just because that's the one you're more familiar with. Okay, so you can see straight away that is the right size. Well, it's very small there. What style did I use? Oh, sorry, it's got that's not the right style. Okay, so that's here. Now, to change your current style, you can just choose it in the list here. So this should be the notes style that I made before. And we can always check that in here. 2.5, that's okay. So I'll go back to multi-line text, and now there we are, that's better. Might seem small, but that's the right size for this page. So don't worry about the other notes. So I'm just going to fix that. I've just locked the scale there because I wanted to zoom in without changing the things in the view. And so, like I was saying, don't worry about doing these other notes because they all have leaders. So in other words, the arrows on the lines there. And so for that, you can use multi-leaders in AutoCAD. And if you haven't used those before, I'm going to show you how to make multi-leader styles next week. And they're really useful if you need to do notes with arrows. Okay, so anyhow, that should give you an idea how to draw that, that detail. We might continue with that a little bit more next week, but otherwise, you know, it should just be copying the lines that you can see there in that drawing. So anything you're not sure about there, or does that all seem okay?